So we're here at Baldwins, and today we're going to have a look at some medals. I'm here with Mark Smith. You might recognise Mark, he's a familiar face on the BBC's Antiques Roadshow. And yeah, we're going to have a bit of a chat about some medals. So Mark, when did you get into medals?
On a Friday afternoon, I used to go down to see my nan. After school, we'd be taken down there, and she was a very Victorian lady. And she lived in a very old-fashioned Victorian house, and there was a parlour. In the parlour, there was a sideboard. And inside the sideboard was this little wooden box.
Right.
And pretty much every week that I was there, I used to take the box out, open it up. And what was inside were the medals that had been awarded to my lovely old dad in World War II when he was an air gunner. I used to put them all back in the box, put them back in the sideboard. And on this particular Friday afternoon, Nan said to me as I was putting them away, "You really like them, don't you?" I said, "Yes, Nan, I do." She said, "Well, look, as long as you promise to look after them, you can take them home." So I took them home, took them out of the box, and I made a display on a bookcase. Now, when my dad left the Royal Air Force at the end of World War II, he became a school teacher, and then he was a headmaster. And by the time I got these medals in 1969, he was a professor at the London University, and he ran the education department for the Goldsmiths College. And he had a knack of teaching you stuff, and he was very keen on teaching you and all people, but that was his job and that's what he loved. So if he found something you were interested in, he ran with that and became interested with you and used it as a vehicle to teach you things, you see. So what he did when he found out that I liked his medals and things like that, so first of all, granddads and aunts and uncles and people started rooting about and coming up with badges and medals and things. So I started to get this little collection going together. And then he came home one day with a poster, which was every medal from sort of 1799 to about 1970, something like that, you see. So the ones that we already had, Dad's and I think my granddad's, we ticked those ones off, so we had them, you see. And we stepped back and we looked at the whole thing, which was about, I suppose it's about 300 medals on this poster, and we said we shall collect all of them.
Did you do it?
Well, so I've been doing it now for 51 years. And I have one left.
And what's that?
It's actually something called an Eastern Central Africa medal.
Right.
And they're not monstrously rare.
No.
They're just difficult to find because mostly they were given to African soldiers. So most of them stayed in Africa.
I see.
So there's just a few around that could come up on the market. So I keep looking, and when one turns up that is within my price range, I'm going to buy it and I'm going to tick it off and I'm going to say to my dad, bless it, wherever he is at this moment in time up there somewhere, I'm going to say, "Dad, do you know what? We did it. It took us 51 years, but we did it."
That's wonderful. You're also, I seem to remember you collect some First World War medals as well, don't you, Mark?
I do. So when I was getting into it in the 1980s, I found out that a lot of people collected to specific things. They collected to one regiment.
Right.
They collected to one battle. And I thought, well, if I want to be a serious medal collector, maybe that's how I should do it. And I went off and I said, well, I shall collect to the King's Royal Rifle Corps, the Rifle Brigade and the Royal Air Force. And I went off to a few medal fairs and markets, and I couldn't find anything that fitted in that category. So I kept coming home without buying any medals. Right. And that really wasn't the plan. See, the plan was to go and buy some medals, you see. So I thought, that's not so good. Don't like that one. I need a different plan, you see. So I got a group of medals to the King's Royal Rifle Corps, which was part of the plan, if you see what I mean. But it was to a man who had been killed in the First World War. And I thought, well, that's quite good. Bless him. And I can research that because I know what day he was killed on, so I can research the battle. So I thought to myself then, what about if I collected a medal for all of the big battles in the First World War? So Battle of the Somme, Battle of Mons, Battle of Loos, etc. Passion Battle, all the way through, you see. And I started to do that, and then I ended up with 3, all from the same battle. So I thought, why don't I try and collect a set of First World War medals to a man or woman who was killed in the First World War? But I will collect a set of medals for every single day of the war. So one person killed on every day.
That's a big job, presumably.
There's 1,555 days of the First World War on which people were killed on, and at the moment I have just about 800 days.
Okay, so over half.
Just over half. But that has taken about 44 years.
Okay.
It's a big job. I don't know if I'll ever finish that one.
Because I've seen your book.
My little book.
Yeah. So, and is there? What do you know? The rarest day is there? Is this something other people try to do, or do these just come up occasionally?
No, I've come across people who collect medals to people buried in certain cemeteries.
Interesting.
And I've come across people who collect medals to just one battle. So the first day of the battle of the Somme, 1st of July 1916.
And is that's quite doable?
It is, because, and that's actually, you've answered your question, because when you look at that calendar that I keep in my pocket, it almost goes in waves, because on the 1st of July 1916, 18,311 men were killed.
Right.
On a weird day, as I found, for example, in January 1916, nobody's fighting. It's too cold.
Yeah, makes sense.
There's no big push. There's no big battle. So the ones that are most difficult to get are the ones that are in between the big battles. Because the big battles are easy to get, because bless it, there's lots of people who are killed. And that sounds very simple now I'm telling you, but that actually came as a big surprise to me, because I hadn't thought about that until I started to put the calendar together.
Right. Well, that'll be an incredible collection when it's finished.
One day.
Something that I get asked a lot, and I know hardly anything about medals at all. The ribbons. People are attracted, sometimes attracted to these really colourful ribbons on these medal sets. Do you have to have the original ribbons, or can you replace them? And also, what relevance do they have?
So the ribbons are a big part of what you're looking at, because they are colourful, as you can see. And the ribbons, for me, if the medals aren't there, you know, I can tell you what the medals are that are represented by the ribbons, because you get to know what the colours are.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a medal with the original ribbon on it.
Right.
Just because it's always been with it. So if you have a medal from Waterloo 200 odd years ago and you've got the original ribbon, it's nice.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But it doesn't really add to the value of the medal. This group here, these are all brand new ribbons.
Yeah, and they look
absolutely brand new. But that doesn't detract in any way from the medals themselves.
I see.
Because the ribbon is just a method of hanging it, really. The important part is what is the medal, what is the clasp, so which battles was he in, and who was he.
Right. Well, that makes I see that's interesting, because I suppose with a coin you may have a proof set in a box, but if it's the original box or a replacement, it doesn't make much of a difference. And I suppose it's it may be more saleable if it's got the original box. I suppose it's similar with the ribbons.
Now, interestingly, boxes that go with medals are in some cases more important than the medal.
Oh, right.
And the ribbon. So, for example, in World War I, which is these ones here, for example, these all have their name on.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you look on the back there, mate, you can see that it's got his name. See? And these have his name around the edge. For World War II, they didn't name them.
No.
And they didn't name them really because they ran out of money. So when they posted the medals to you, like these came in a little white cardboard box in an envelope. When they posted them to you in World War II, they came in a brown box.
Yes. Inside
the brown box was a piece of paper. Didn't have your name on it unless you were killed.
Right.
So it's just a piece of paper that says these are your medals.
Yeah.
It's got your name on the box, and then your medals are inside. So the only thing that ties those medals to that man is that cardboard box.
So a medal set without the person's name is very, very difficult to identify.
It's just medals. You can't know it. Yeah. It has a value, but not as much as if you had a set of medals in a brown cardboard box to a Battle of Britain pilot.
A hell of a difference.
If you just had the medals, they would be worth £3,000.
Yeah. Right.
If you had the box with his name on it, £6,000.
Amazing.
So you're paying for the box. So boxes and paperwork and photographs and anything else that goes with the soldier's life as a soldier, super rare and super important, because it's those bits of paper, those cardboard boxes, that give you the provenance for what your man did.
And that's something we really don't tend to see as much with coins. A bit of a provenance is good, but we don't have anywhere near what you have with your medal sets. Which brings me on comparing with coins a little bit, because they are, in a way, that they're struck. Condition. With coins, we always talk about condition. That's not quite the same with medals, is it?
We do talk about condition, and we do tell people that sometimes the suspender where they're joined together has become loose and things like that.
Yeah.
And over time, they're worn by people. And if a mint coin has never been used, whereas a coin that has been in everybody's pocket is damaged.
Yeah, it'll wear down.
Exactly.
It may have even been polished by someone who didn't really know what it was.
So these get polished by the man who owns them, or the lady, and when they get worn together, they knock together. So they do sort of dent each other.
Yeah.
And what we do is that we mention the dents.
Yeah.
Now, there are people who will collect medals that have to be almost mint looking, and there are people who love medals that look like they've been dug up, because they have a story as well.
And look like someone's worn them on parade.
Exactly. And there's a really classic example of that. There's a thing called the Egypt medal from the 1880s, and you were given a medal by the Khedive of Egypt.
Okay.
And it's a bronze star, and the two usually are worn together.
Yeah.
But the bronze star hits against the silver Egypt and dents it all the way around. So what you would write in the catalogue then, which you would probably never write in a coin thing, is that you would say usual pity, because that's what they're supposed to look like, because they got battered by the one next to it.
But you say condition isn't, I presume, in this case, so with medals, condition really isn't as important as the things like the provenance and the story behind them.
It's the story.
Yeah.
It's nice to have a minty set, but the thing about medals is if they are truly, truly mint, then they weren't ever worn by anybody.
No, so they haven't got much character. They haven't.
And sometimes that's the point.
Yeah.
If the man's worn them, and it's on the old ribbons and they're all frayed, then that's part of the story.
Yeah.
The mint ones, not always, but the mint ones, you're looking at really those people who got killed, because when the medals came home, they weren't worn. They might have been put in a frame on the wall or put in the drawer. So that also is a defining feature as to who the man was and what he did with them or not when they were awarded.
Fascinating. And finally, so your whole career in television, medal specialist, what is the most valuable medal set that you've ever appraised?
So it's going to be a Victoria Cross.
Not surprising.
And I can't say the name of the museum.
No.
But I got to value a set of medals that they had in their museum collection. Now, it's a very rare set of medals, because if you win the Victoria Cross or any gallantry medal, you get the medal. If you go out onto a battlefield and you win the same medal again, they don't give you two. They give you this little strip of metal, a bit like this, but not quite the same. It's just got laurel wreaths on it.
So if you do something worthy of the Victoria Cross, after you've already been given a Victoria Cross, they don't give you a second one?
No, they give you this little bit of metal, and that's called the bar.
Right, yes.
Now, out of the 1,356 odd people who have won the VC, 3 men have won it twice. And I got to value one of those with the bar to a man called Arthur Martin Leake.
Right.
And that was £2 million.
Good grief. That's a lot. That's more than a lot of coins that we've sold. What did he do to get the first and the second one?
So he won his first Victoria Cross in the Boer War.
Right.
For going out to try and help some wounded soldiers, and he got shot. And when the people had been carried in, he was left out on the battlefield because they couldn't bring all of them in one go. But when he eventually came back and they put him in the tent, they had to go and find another doctor. And when they came back, he'd got off the stretcher and he was tending to everyone in the tent.
Wow.
Even though he was the most seriously wounded.
Wow.
And then in World War One, right at the very start, he was told that there was a wounded man out in no man's land who was caught up in the barbed wire, and he went out on his own and rescued him under fire from the Germans.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
First man ever to win 2 VCs.
So the Victoria Cross tells the story of the Boer War, and that little piece of metal
Is the second.
is the second one.
Yeah, it's engraved on the back of the bar, just for those things. But
Wow.
yeah, it's just a very thin little strip of metal.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. That's absolutely fascinating, and it's really, really been a pleasure to speak to you.
It's been fun. Thank you.
Thank you.